A magician takes to the stage. He pulls out a deck of cards. Not that one, or that one, that one. And he proceeds to do what can only be described as miracles, or magic, or whatever that word is. But of course, this isn't real magic. These are just tricks, clever moves and skills that have taken years of practice. This is sleight of hand. We pack it in with the smoke. Come on. Can't see a thing. And it's one of the oldest performing arts in the world. Sleight of hand has been deep-rooted in human culture for thousands of years. It's used for magic, it's used to show skill, and it's also used to cheat and steal. And there's an inherent problem in all of that. By looking at the origins of sleight of hand and tracing the evolution of some of these clever moves, you soon start to see there's a bit of a paradox here. I know, look at me throwing fancy words out there, but stick with me. Picture the scene. We're outside the pyramids. There's a crowd of people watching a weird-looking guy playing with his balls. When you put it like that, it doesn't sound too appealing, but thanks to wall paintings inside ancient Egyptian burial chambers depicting a magician called Dedi, or Didi, I don't know, we now know that the official oldest trick in the book is this. Pull my finger. I'm joking, it's this. The cups and balls, 2,500 years in the making. This trick has truly stood the test of time. Now there's all sorts of different variations, different versions of the cups and balls, but we all sort of rely on the same idea, the same premise. No matter what you do with the ball, put it in your pocket, get rid of it, always ends up underneath the cup. You know where the ball is in the hand, you know where it's going to go, underneath the cup. And even with sleeves rolled up, the ball ends up underneath the cup. No matter what you do with it, get rid of it, put it in your pocket, always ends up underneath the cup. And by the way, there's a reason this is considered the best way of learning the fundamentals of sleight of hand. It's because there's a little bit of everything, a little bit of timing, a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of misdirection. So you might think you see that third ball go in the pocket, but it's already found its way underneath the cup. And they all use the same method, by the way, all these different versions. They all use an extra ball. There's 4 balls, there's 3 in the hand, and the 4th ball is the ball that's underneath the cup. That's the 4th ball. Don't even get me started, by the way, with the 5th ball. The 5th ball doesn't even fit in the cup. So the 4th ball is the red ball, the 5th ball is the 8th ball, the 6th ball is another 8 ball, and the 7th ball is another 8 ball. The irony is, there is no 8th ball. But today there's countless versions of this trick, each with slight variations, but one of the most famous versions is Penn Teller's routine using
clear plastic cups.
Penn Teller realised that this trick could still be beautiful.
We take the first ball, pretend to place it in our hand, having already snuck it underneath the first cup.
Even when you know the method.
We have 3 duplicates. Send a couple of these 3 balls over here. This is not juggling. This is called misdirection. For looking over here, Teller sneaks the final ball under, 1 more on either side, and of course for the finish, it's an American baseball!
Now, I show you that routine because it's a good example of one of the problems with sleight of hand, the fact that you can arguably appreciate the effect more once you see the mechanics behind it. The reveal is as good as, if not better, than the trick itself. Of course, throughout history, it's probably never done as a reveal, but we don't know if it was a display of magic, or done as a con game, or a bit of both. In fact, a lot of historical depictions show someone in the crowd pickpocketing an onlooker, kind of suggesting the performer was in on the scam and an accomplice to naughty nugget criminals. I say historical depictions, by the way, we don't actually have a lot in the way of records for magicians for a lot of human history. The only real records start about 1,000 years later with the invention of playing cards, although back then they didn't really look like this and card tricks weren't really a thing yet. It's the 15th century and all throughout Germany, France and England, playing cards are evolving through a variety of suits and symbols, including polo sticks, coins, swords, cups and toilet brushes. I might have made that last one up, but the first real text of card tricks can be found in what is now considered the first proper magic book, published by Reginald Scott in the year 1584, The Discovery of Witchcraft. Yep, witchcraft. See, back then magic wasn't quite the form of entertainment it is now. Have you seen this one? In some ways it was feared by the public, it was sorcery, it was witchcraft, and a lot of magicians were persecuted by the church and the government. But this book helped dispel them beliefs by revealing to the public how these witches and sorcerers were just magicians using clever tricks and sleight of hand. Although I would like to clarify, I actually do use witchcraft, yeah? Big time sorcerer over here. The problem is though, this reveal and separation from the occult witchcraft stuff kind of meant that magicians were just thrown into the same category as con artists and charlatans, reduced to doing their deception and tricks on the streets. And this reputation stuck for a long time. You can even see this at play with some of the sleight of hand techniques they teach in some of the older books. For example, the French drop, a classic move magicians practice to simulate the fake take of a coin. This is the way it's currently taught. Not the most deceptive move in the world, but you look at the diagrams in the old books, specifically Professor Hoffman's Modern Magic, published in 1876. You look at the diagrams there, and the coin's held up here, right? The magician is displaying it to onlookers on the street. It's got to be high up so everybody can see what's going on. And suddenly it becomes a bit more of a deceptive move when it's up here. Now, back then the word magician wasn't really being used. The people doing these sorts of sleight of hand tricks were seen as a form of juggler. And there's a long and complicated history of various different players, all who helped develop sleight of hand techniques and elevate the art of magic over the next couple hundred years. But the big player, the big boy, is Robert Houdin. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because Harry Houdini, the most famous magician of all time who transcended the niche of magic, he named himself after this guy. Widely considered as the daddy of, that doesn't sound right, as the father of modern magic, Robert Houdin was a watchmaker with an interest in all things sleight of hand. And he didn't like the associations with the occult and witchcraft. He pictured the magician to be a man of science. And being a bit of an inventor himself, his illusions made use of electromagnetism and various clever mechanical and electrical machines that he presented as scientific marvels. Basically, a very clever boy. And over the course of his lifetime, he elevated magic from being just a fairground attraction to a high-end, respectable art. Something that the rich would come and watch in fancy theatres. Suddenly, magicians were no longer jugglers, they were conjurers. Oof, get you. And this guy took sleight of hand very seriously. To succeed as a conjurer, 3 things are essential. First, dexterity. Second, dexterity. And third, dexterity. A little on the nose, mate, but we get it. There was one thing that bugged him the whole time though, and that was the association sleight of hand had with petty criminality. We're talking card cheats, pickpockets, street scams, you name it. He's kind of got a point, to be fair. Especially at this time, the line was kind of blurry between magicians and cheats. In fact, around that time, in 1902, the most influential card magic book of all time was published. The Expert at the Card Table. This is, and still is, the go-to book for both magicians and card cheats, right? But 2/3 of its pages, 2/3, are devoted to methods for cheating at cards for money, not for magic. S.W. Erdnase, the author of the book, is quite open about the fact the techniques were learned in the cold school of experience. He was a card cheat himself. In fact, the name Erdnase is a pseudonym. No one actually knows who this guy is. And the fact that magicians to this day are still learning sleight of hand from an actual card cheat who wrote a book primarily on cheating at cards for money says a lot about the crossover between the worlds of conjuring and criminality. Even now, it's not uncommon to see scam artists on the streets doing sleight of hand hustles. Take the classic Find the Lady, for example, sometimes known as the 3-card Monty. The idea is simple. One card is the money card, the Queen, and the other 2 cards are just a distraction. Guess where the Queen is and you win the money. Guess wrong and you lose your money. Even when you think you know where the Queen is, you'll always be wrong. The sleight of hand moves are designed to make you think you know what's going on. Even if you get rid of the Queen and all you're left with are the distracted cards, you'll still be wrong. Here comes the move. That's it. The switch is done. Now the Queen's in the hand and the 9's in the pocket. You'd bet your house on the Queen being on the table, but it's all a scam. I've got extra cards. The hustler is in control the whole time. If I want you to guess that this card was a queen, it'd be a queen. If I want this card to be a queen, it'd be a queen. And suddenly you've now got 3 queens. You've lost your house, your wife has left you, and your kids have lost any respect they once had for you. Now that's a magician-y version of that trick, but there are people that do similar sleights to cheat people out of money. And the really good ones you've never heard of. Because they're the guys in the private poker games doing all manner of naughty things like chip swaps, deck stacking, second dealing, centre dealing. There's a whole world of gambling style cheating moves out there, and magicians love to show this off. They love to blur the line because it makes magic that little bit cooler, doesn't it? Yeah, I might be an embarrassment to my family, but at least I can win some money on a poker table, so who's the real loser? Still me. And as a magician, it's great because you can adapt this cool gambling, card cheating world into something that would appear to be a magic trick. Like if we get a card picked, right, and we go for the 2 of clubs, right, I can show you all the different ways of controlling that card. But by the end of this, it'll look like a magic trick, really. And there's different levels to this, all right? So level 1 of controlling a card is getting that card to the top of the pack. That's level 1. 2 of clubs now on the top of the pack, all right? There's different levels. Level 2 is controlling that card's mate. Now every card has got a mate. The 5 of hearts mate is the 5 of diamonds. The 2 of clubs mate is the 2 of spades. And my mate is Well, I don't have any mates, I'm a magician. But level 3 is all about finding and controlling an entire suit. And like a golfer with dementia, I'm now looking for the clubs, a couple of cuts, and a couple of shuffles. And I'm going to try and control every single club, all 13 of them, that's in the pack. And if this works, which it will have done, because I wouldn't have posted it online otherwise, all the clubs are now in order, along with the hearts, the diamonds, and the spades. Every single card in new deck order. And you'll notice that the chosen card, the 2 of clubs, is nestled nice and cosy in between the ace and the 3. Now that's level 3. Level 4 is using marked cards. That's how this works. All the cards are marked on the back. Well, not these are all red. This is the only marked one, because that's the only blue card. See, that's a blend of all these different things. It's kind of the same when you see magicians who bill themselves as pickpockets. They will pickpocket the willing audience member and demonstrate the skills that a real pickpocket has. And often these techniques are displayed so as to educate the public on how easy it is to be deceived and have your possessions stolen from you. The blurring the line again. And going back to our mate Robert Houdin, he even published a book exposing card cheats back in 1891. He revealed a load of card cheating methods in the hope that the reading of my book will inspire no thought beyond that of guarding themselves against the tricks of Sherpas. Sorry, sharpers. No one's card cheating up Mount Everest, are they? But at that time, there wasn't really the close-up magician like you see today, so people had a lot less exposure to this card cheating sleight of hand stuff. Like, this was the Vaudeville era. Magic was a high-class act being presented on theatre stages. Classic magicians like Herman and Hoffinser were shaping the image of what we now see as the classic magician. Fancy suit, magic wand, elegant movements, questionable hat. And soon variety bills would introduce specialist acts where a conjurer would showcase a very specific skill. A niche ability, like a whole act based around silks or watches or billiard balls. Magicians were now performing without even speaking, letting the hands do the talking. Manipulation acts were coming into fashion. Repeated appearances and vanishes of cards, coins, cigarettes, you name it, they were doing it. But is this not juggling? Magicians work so hard to get away from this juggler title, and here they are, blurring the line again. But is that not part of the fun? Think about this. Sleight of hand is the bridging gap between criminals and jugglers. That's mental. And herein lies the paradox, in quotation marks, because it's all about the display of skill. Take this footage from probably the most classic looking magician there ever was, Cardini. This is the only footage we have of this guy, but he's a bit of a legend in the magic world, right? First off, he's wearing gloves. Trust me when I say, sleight of hand gets a lot harder when you're wearing gloves. But this guy used to practice card manipulations in the trenches during World War I, so he got used to working with gloves on, right? Now, when you watch this act, the whole act is almost as if this stuff is happening to him. He's on the receiving end, and it's an annoyance that these cards, cigarettes, billiard balls, that all this stuff keeps appearing. His sleight of hand, in the context of this act, appears to work against him, in spite of him. Except for this one moment where he graciously flourishes the billiard ball around his fingers like butter. It's a display of skill, the only overt display of skill in the entire act, and it's kind of inconsistent with the rest of it. Us magicians, we love nothing more than to showcase the skills we spent years learning, which I get, because in some cases it is helpful to clearly show the audience that you're a skilled performer. But in other instances, it is just pure self-indulgence. It goes against the whole point of sleight of hand, the whole point of the deception. By showing the audience that you've got skill with a pack of cards, you're naturally going to reduce the impact of the trick. Of course, you can swap one card for another. Did you not see the bit where he flicked the card into his mouth? That's Tekker's, that. Woo! There's a good quote in another classic magic book, Expert Card Technique. The performer who constantly ripples the ends of the pack, who rushes through his feet as though Beelzebub were hard on his heels, whose movements are quick and jerky, is defeated before he starts. For his spectators, always are conscious of the fact that he's employing sleight of hand. His very action betrays the fact. It's a fancy way of saying, we know you're up to something with them cards, mate, because you spent the first 5 minutes showing off how good you are at shuffling. But that's only half the problem. There's another issue here with sleight of hand magic that's only come about quite recently. See, the techniques used throughout the history of sleight of hand have all been relevant to what's available at the time. Cigarette magic is not really a thing anymore because cigarettes are slowly being phased out. You've got Rubik's Cube sleight of hand is starting to become more prevalent with the rise of speed cubing. I mean, look at this kid. He's solving 3 Rubik's Cubes whilst juggling them. It's unbelievable. We're also probably going to see more and more sleight of hand with technology. Everyone's got a phone now, haven't they? Not that this is a phone, this is just an empty case, but yeah. And it's becoming more common to see people demonstrating a skill, not just live, but through the format of video, online, which can be a problem. Magicians love misdirection, but on video, you're now at the mercy of the ever-present, always watching camera lens. There's no room for misdirection, no room for any sort of error, because you, the unblinking, sweaty weirdo who can't wait to rewind it and play it back in slow speed, would love nothing more than a magician to give the game away so you can work out how the tricks are done. I mean, you might not be sweaty, but you get my point here. Watch that back in slow speed, see how we got on with that. And some magicians have had to adapt and create certain techniques and tricks that wouldn't really work in person, but they work for, let's say, a fixed perspective. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Each medium requires a different kind of attention. Close-up's different to parlour, parlour's different to stage, stage is different to TV, TV's different to social media. These social media magicians. And magicians performing tricks that only work for a certain viewing perspective isn't a new thing. Take this clip from the man widely considered as the godfather of magic, Di Vernon. Here he is doing a vanishing card trick that only really works on camera or from a certain fixed viewing perspective, shall we say. See? Even the old boys were at it. And they were mainly boys, by the way. That's another thing that's been changing massively over the last 50 years. More and more women are getting into magic, and now we're starting to see sleight of hand stuff that's specific to women and wouldn't work for fellas, which will no doubt unlock a whole new set of techniques to be explored, because sleight of hand will forever evolve. Magicians love taking existing tricks and just slightly adapting them, improving them here and there. It's why the art is constantly changing and evolving. With the internet, every magician now has a wealth of knowledge at their fingertips that they would never have had back in the day. The barrier to entry has been lowered and the potential to learn amazing things has been raised. But you can't forget the goats. That's the greatest of all time, by the way, to any old fogies watching this. I'm not now talking about farm animals. Loads of the people we've mentioned here are worth studying to really build the foundations for good sleight of hand. The problem is, barely any footage exists of these people, which is a shame, but what we do have are books. Some of the best tricks of the last few centuries are hidden in these classic magic books, which you can get access to for free. Thanks to the sponsor of this video, The Daily Magician, because these guys have done magicians a massive favour and compiled 24 of these classic magic books worth over $2.5 grand, if you bought them today, by the way. Books from guys like Houdin, Rhodes, Robert Houdin. They all exist somewhere out there in the public domain, but The Daily Magician have collected the best ones into one easy place where you can get them for free. All you need is an email address, sign up to the mailing list, and you get instant access to that wealth of knowledge. It's quite nice to offer this, because whether you're a beginner or a pro, there's something for everyone here. I'll leave a link in the description, just make sure you check it out before the offer's gone. Right, I'll see you in a bit.